this is Danielle Carlberg.
And Mariah Evans.
And we did our court case study on Castaneda versus Pickard.
Following the African American civil rights movement in the 1950s and 1960s, many additional legal cases began to arise surrounding the way Mexican Americans were being treated in school. The case that happened before the Castaneda versus Pickard case was the Serna versus Portales of 1974. In this case, students who had Spanish last names were not reaching the same achievement levels as students without Spanish last names. Since this was occurring, the court ordered Portales Municipal School District to implement a bilingual and bicultural program. Then, in the case that happened after the Castaneda versus Pickard case, was Plyer versus Joe of 1982. In this case, schools were denying access to students who were undocumented aliens. The court then decided this was unjust and schools could not act as agencies and enforce immigration laws.
The Castaneda versus Pickard case started in Texas, where Mexican-American families, led by the Castaneda family, charged Raymondville Independent School District with not meeting the needs of English language learners within the district. In 1974, the Equal Education Opportunities Act had prohibited discrimination of faculty, staff, and students, and required school districts to make all students have equal participation. However, the challengers in the Castaneda versus Pickard court case felt this was not happening in Raymondville.
Ray Castaneda, the man who led the case, he was one of 13 children. He taught outside the school district at L.C. Smith Elementary School. L.C. Smith School was made up of almost all students who were Mexican American, with only 3 white students. So Castaneda, who was an experienced educator, saw a problem and sought to change it. Castaneda and 5 other families filed the lawsuit because the district was grouping Mexican Americans together at 2 specific schools. Additionally, Raymondville Independent of Texas School District was discriminating students based on ethnicity and insufficient bilingual program.
Raymondville is located in Willacy County, Texas. Willacy County is in the Rio Grande Valley. At that time, 77% of the population in the county was Mexican American and 23% was white. 1/3 of the population of Raymondville was made up of migrant farm workers, and 3/4 of the students qualified for the free lunch program. Raymondville property value was the lowest 10% of all Texas counties in its per capita student expenditures.
In the Castaneda versus Pickard case, the families of the Mexican American children believed the school district was discriminating against their children because of their ethnicity. They argued that the school was segregating students based on race and ethnicity criteria due to the grouping systems the school district was making. As mandated by the Law v. Nickel case of 1974, school districts needed to make sure they were providing adequate education for all students, whether bilingual or not. Like many other school districts, Raymondville, Texas Independent School District was not ensuring that their ELL students were achieving at the level of their non-ELL students. The Castaneda versus Pickard case was tried on August 17, 1978. The judge found that the district had not violated the Mexican American children's right, which meant he ruled in favor of the school district. Going into that trial, the plaintiff's attorney, Jim Herman, told the Castaneda family that he did not expect Judge Robert O'Connor to rule in their favor. However, he did mention, "We are building a solid record of testimony to be used on the appeal in the U.S. 5th Circuit Court in New Orleans."
The Mexican-American families who were suing Raymondville, Texas Independent School District knew that it was a long shot when they initially brought the case to court, but they decided to appeal in 1981. They knew that the district had erred in numerous laws and that the trial had missed several facts that were important to their case. They brought it to the U.S. Fifth Circuit Court in New Orleans. This is a federal court that oversees court appeals from Texas, Louisiana, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. Attorney Herman was quoted expressing his optimism toward the court as they had a record of progressive rulings. Finally, in 1981, the ruling was appealed, and the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the Mexican-American families. Then, in January of 1986, the district was found to have used the Castaneda test to make positive changes in the district. The court believed the school district was not meeting the requirements of the Equal Education Opportunities Act, so the case came out with a test to see if schools are taking appropriate action to help their English language learners. Because of this case, schools now use what is called the Castaneda test, which focuses on three main aspects. The first one is theory. An instructional program intended for children who are English language learners has to be based on a solid foundation of recent research. The second one is practice. School districts must take the steps to apply theoretical principles in practice. Specially trained personnel must be hired, resources provided, and language lessons taught so that their theoretical instructional principles become a classroom reality. The third one is results. Schools are required to demonstrate that their programs for English language learners provide instructional benefits. If the results are not there, schools are under obligation to revise their curricula.
Some of the shortcomings of the Castaneda case, which were presented by DeVal in 2003, said that the first two ideas, sound educational theory and sufficient resources and personnel, can be easily supported by any school without much evidence. This allows for schools to not require much of the staff or funding. Additionally, the third idea that states schools are evaluated by how effective the students acquire language does not have a time frame, so students might be in an inadequate program before the students and the program are identified and changed. As far as bilingual education goes, this case did not require bilingual education programs to meet the three standards. However, it requires that the schools have an appropriate action to overcome language barriers, and that the programs have good implementation.
The Castaneda versus Pickard case is considered to be the second most important case decision influencing education for English language learners. All school districts should have policies for students who are not native English speakers. Each school district needs a policy and then needs to make sure its schools are taking that policy into consideration, and if they are not meeting the policy, the school needs to change its program. To many districts and schools, this might be a daunting fact due to our nation's 5 million English language learners, with 40% of them who are currently enrolled in rural schools. Yet it is something that needs to be done so that all students are given the same opportunity in school. One of the things that really stuck out to me when we were studying this case was just the persistence of the Castaneda family. It was over 5 years by the time they finally won the case, and they just continued to persist throughout the whole thing in order to make sure that their children had equal rights in their school.
I really think it's important, the Castaneda test. It's great for schools to think about what type of theory they're having in their classrooms, what type of practice, their best practice that they can have, and how are their students showing the results that they need. So I thought that was interesting and a good takeaway to have from the Castaneda versus Pickard.